Brian Van, sportbiketrackgear.com, and today we're going to install a full set of GB Racing overcovers on our 2014 Yamaha FZ-09 Project Bike. These GB Racing covers are manufactured using high-impact injection molded, long glass filled nylon. Really strong stuff. They're a cinch to install. Each one of the packages comes with a phenomenal set of instructions that really makes this installation clean and easy, which is what we like to see. Why would we put these on this bike? On this naked bike, okay, the reason I think these have a lot of merit is because we've got all these engine covers that are hanging out. If you have a tip over in a parking lot, these covers, they are definitely pretty fragile. Having the overcovers on there is going to help to keep this in one tack and help get you riding the bike home versus having to get the bike trailered home. If you're going to do track days or anything like that, these are an easy choice because in the event of a crash, they help to protect the covers so you don't oil down the racetrack. So I think this has a lot of merit for street as well as for track. On a naked bike like this, we don't have any fairings that are covering up these engine covers. And I think these make even more sense on a naked street bike than they would on a fully faired street bike because they offer that layer of protection. Installation. We're going to begin here with the clutch cover protector. Looking at the instructions, they literally line out which bolts you need to pull out, right? They tell you which length each bolt is in the location where it goes into the overcover. Tools, what am I going to need for this one? I'm literally going to need a 5mm T-handle. We're going to begin by removing the stock clutch cover protector. And then we'll get ready to install our GB overcover. Out that comes. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to mock this up real quick. See which bolts. Okay. You can clearly see which ones you take out. We need to put back in these two factory fasteners that were originally holding on that factory cover protector. Torque specs are supplied. If you want to use a torque wrench, that's a good decision. If you're comfortable with torquing the bolts by hand, you can do that as well. Typically, installing an overcover like this, there's no need to replace the gasket because at the end of the day, you're really not disturbing it. That said, we're still going to want to see some time spent after the install, making sure we don't have any type of fluid leaks that were caused by this install. It would be a very rare occurrence if one was created. Nevertheless, before you ride the motorcycle, you want to spend a little bit of time and make sure that you have checked for leaks. Just about got these four fasteners out. I always recommend saving any hardware you remove from your motorcycle. Save all the factory hardware. You never know when circumstances may dictate you need to reuse it. Okay, got all those out. Now what I want to do is check all the bolts here. Each one of these is an M6 by 40mm long, so they're all the same in terms of length. I don't need to worry about varying bolt length with each hole. 10 Newton meters is what they're asking for each one of these for torque if you are using a torque wrench. Clearly see the covers, also add some aesthetic appeal, which is never a bad thing, especially on a naked bike like Yamaha FZ-09. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get each one of these finger tight, like so. Notice I'm using crisscross pattern here. It's important to apply a nice even torque. that one seated. This one here. And once I have them all down finger tight, we'll begin to torque them down. Once again, to use a crisscross pattern, keep it nice and even. I'm going to run it over each one of these a couple of times just to make sure they're all tight and even. There is our secondary engine clutch cover install. Once again, put to the side all of your factory hardware. Even this factory overcover, you never know when you may need to use that again. Now we're going to come up and we're going to install the secondary engine pulse cover. Looking at this, we've got M6 by 25 millimeter, 4 bolts, all of the same length. Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'll hold this up against the factory cover and get a good idea of which ones I'm pulling out. And we will begin to remove our factory hardware. So this is a relatively simple job. I think most any rider can get this done, especially when you're working on a naked bike like our FZ-09, where you don't have to remove any fairings. Really simplifies the process quite a bit. You get a fully faired bike, and any of the newer stuff, removing the fairings itself can be quite a project. So it's a real bonus working on a naked bike like our FZ-09. Put all of those to the side. Let's get that cover up there. We're going to repeat the same process that we showed you on the other side. I'd like to note too that every one of the bolt holes has a metal insert in it. And that really helps with the durability of the product. I would say the fit and finish of these covers thus far is amazing. They look great, they fit great, zero issues. These are all FIM approved. Let's go ahead and get these all finger tight, and then we're going to torque them down. And there is the secondary engine pulse cover. We're going to flip the bike around and we're going to install the overcovers on the clutch side. Okay, now we're over to the left-hand side of the bike, or as I like to call it, the clutch side, because the clutch lever is on this side of the bike. We're going to begin by installing the secondary water pump cover. This one's going to be a little bit more interesting because one of the fasteners that we need to replace actually goes into a coolant passage inside the motorcycle, so it looks like there's some possibility for fluid loss here, so we had to set up with a drain patch. Once again, very clear instructions. The instructions for this particular cover are the longest of any of the 4 that we're going to install. What differs from this one is one of the bolts right down here. Like I said, this is going to go into the coolant passage a little bit. And we also have to rotate this coolant hose clamp, which they, got a lot of British people, they are referring to this as a Jubilee clamp. So we're going to go ahead and begin with this. I want to see this rotated 180 degrees in order to do that. What you're going to want to do is take your clamp and loosen it up completely, like so, and remove it. You don't want to pull the hose off because then you're going to lose a ton of coolant and have to go through that whole process. So we're going to take it off, spread it apart, put it back over 180, just a screw drive clamp. Really very mysterious here. I'm going to put that on loose so we can still move it around a little bit. Let's have a look at the cover and see what fasteners. Go at least 3 in that one. Okay. I'm going to save the one with the fluid behind it for last. And let's hope that we don't have a huge mess. motorcycle has not been started in a while, so we don't have any pressure behind the radiator cap. If your bike has been run recently, right, and the engine's still warm at all when we're doing this project, I'm going to recommend that you're going to carefully remove or at least loosen the radiator clamp to let any pressure inside out. By just loosening the cap, you can allow that pressure to bleed out. And that way, you're not going to end up forcing any of the coolant out. Let's go ahead and this bolt right here. This clamp is kind of slide that out of the way so we can get that last bolt out. Okay. And now we're going to go after the one that has the fluid behind it. Let's see where that takes us. Let's see, you've got copper washer here. That doesn't look too bad really at all. You've got a copper washer right here that we're going to have to reuse. They want that installed like so. They've supplied a new copper washer. We're going to put a 25 millimeter long M6 bolt right here. On the back side of this, they want you to use the brand new supplied copper washer. Let me go ahead and just make sure my surface there is free of any kind of debris. And let me get this one started. Try and slow that drip. Okay. We need a 50 millimeter bolt up here. We're going to install a 50 millimeter bolt down here. And then another 25 up here. Before I snug any of that, I'm going to go ahead and get my Jubilee clamp back into position here. It's going to be easier to do, obviously, while everything's loose. Like that. Okay. What I want to do too is I want to make sure that I get the clamp to actually run underneath the cover. What I don't want to have happen is the tail of the clamp kind of going over the cover. I think aesthetically it's just not going to look great. I'll set it up so it's going to run under. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get these all finger tight. And then we'll torque them down, just as we have in the other areas. Cross pattern once again. Hit each one, make sure really very little fluid loss there. That was a complete non-issue. Get that radiator hose clamp, Jubilee clamp nice and snug. And we're good to go. That one is done. So now we're going to move on to our final cover. Secondary alternator cover or our stator cover. Bolt lengths here, we've got 35 mil, 40 mil, 50 mil. So we've got two 50s, a 35 and a 40. And I'll line these up according to length. I'll do the same thing I did on the other side. Just kind of throw that over the top, see which ones are coming out. Two here, two over here. Pull on all of our stock fasteners. Okay, so that measure out. cover is on. And we're going to begin with a 50 millimeter bolt, 50 millimeter length right here. And another 50 just below it. And 35, the shortest of the four, will go right here. And 40 is there. Get these all started. Nice hardware supply with these two, high quality hardware. Matches the finish of the OE bolts, which is nice. Let's get one of these finger tight. And then we will torque them down, just like the previous three covers. And there you have it. We have just installed a full set of overcovers on our 2014 FZ-09. What do I think of the product? This is the first time that I've used the GB Racing product. I got to tell you, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the quality of the covers, the fit of the covers, the engineering behind the product. And one of the things that I really appreciate is the instructions they supply. They are so thorough. They have pictures. They outline which bolt goes in which hole. They've done a very thorough job. I think these are a great addition to any motorcycle. Like I said earlier, especially if you're a naked bike rider, these offer an additional layer of protection for street riding. If you happen to have a little parking lot tip over, a little fall, this can make the difference between fluid spilling everywhere and having to get your bike towed home, or picking your bike up, being a little disappointed, and being able to continue your ride. And I think that is really where the value comes in for a street rider. For a track rider, obviously, if you happen to have a fall, you definitely don't want to oil the track down. These could make the difference between completing your race meet or completing your track day weekend, or having to load your bike up because you got a broken engine cover. This is the GB Racing overcover install on our 2014 STG Yamaha FZ-09 project.